Welcome to Sunday Edition. I'm Dennis Woltering. As we prepare to observe the 5th anniversary of the catastrophe called Katrina, a look at how volunteers from across America helped fuel the recovery. Plus, 5 years after healthcare in New Orleans was left in shambles and a temporary morgue had to be set up to address those who died, a look at how the region has restored critical services. But first, the latest crisis to strike this region, the BP oil spill. Tomorrow, Kenneth Feinberg takes over as administrator of the BP claims process. He promises that all documented emergency claims filed before November 23rd will be paid to any eligible individual within 48 hours and to any eligible business in 7 days. But some are afraid they will be shortchanged. And many are still concerned about the impact of oil and dispersants on the Gulf waters and marine life. In fact, some even question whether the government is helping BP to hide the truth about cancer-causing substances in Gulf waters. Here to tell us about his concerns, an attorney representing United Commercial Fishermen, Stuart Smith. Stuart, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. And first of all, this question, I mean, do you believe the government could be helping BP to hide the danger in the water?
Oh, I think that it's pretty clear that the government has come under serious attack by independent scientists for asserting that 75% of the oil is gone. We now know that's not true. It was reported in the Wall Street Journal this afternoon that a plume the size of Manhattan has been found southwest of the well. A lot of the oil is still in the Gulf. Some scientists say 80%.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the danger. What makes you think it's so dangerous?
There are chemicals known as polyaromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, and I think your viewers will be hearing a lot about that going forward. They're very resilient in the environment. They're known, absolutely known, to cause cancer, and they are present in the dispersed water, the water-oil dispersant mixture, and they're not going away very quickly.
And you've done some testing. You've had someone do some testing of the combination of oil and dispersants to see what the result is. Tell us about that.
Yes, we are very concerned because according to our analysis, EPA has never tested the dispersant and the oil in water from this well. So we got samples of the dispersant and we got samples from the oil from this well, and we got fresh, clean Gulf of Mexico water from Key West, Florida, and we brought it to a laboratory. And basically, the experiment showed pretty conclusively that the dispersed oil will contaminate the entire water column, whereas the oil by itself will simply float on the top of the surface. That is what is causing this emergency situation with the marine life in the Gulf of Mexico.
What do you mean? You mean it's going to get into the marine life?
It's going to
contaminate the marine life?
Correct. It makes it much more bioavailable. In other words, the use of the dispersants is making the toxic chemicals in the oil much more bioavailable to the food chain in the Gulf. There's just no doubt about it, Dennis, and it's very frightening. And
in terms of the cancer-causing agents, I mean, what's the difference with the combination of this oil and dispersants from just plain clean water?
Well, these PAHs are heavy, and if no dispersant was applied to the oil, the PAHs, for the most part, would stay with the tar balls, the heavier compounds of the oil that basically they wash up onto shore. You can pick them up, you can send them to a dump. Once you apply dispersants to the oil, those PAHs are released on a molecular level into the water column. And so it's a lot more dangerous chemicals in the Gulf of Mexico from the use of dispersants than would have been there had they not used them.
And is there evidence that this is actually getting into the seafood, into fish and marine life?
Yes. As a matter of fact, the University of South Florida reported yesterday that huge underground contaminated plumes or cloud areas at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico have impacted algae and these other small microorganisms that are the basis of the food chain. So it's just like a chemical contaminant on land. If the algae is contaminated, the little bitty fish eat the algae, then a bigger fish eats that fish, and it concentrates as it goes up the food chain. And long term, that's what we need to be concerned about.
Okay, let's talk about the claims process. What are your concerns about that? I know a lot of people who have claims are very concerned about Kenneth Feinberg and this whole process.
Well, I think that Mr. Feinberg's process for the simple claims may work. I mean, we're very optimistic and want to work with Mr. Feinberg. However, I think it's just unrealistic to expect sophisticated businessmen or people with significant commercial claims to go there without a lawyer or a CPA. People need to consult with their attorneys because the Oil Pollution Act is very complicated, and there are different remedies available for different people depending upon what type of business you're in. Hopefully, he will be able to get a lot of the simpler claims resolved quickly.
Right. Now, after 9/11, he was able to get a lot of victims' families to settle without going to court. He said the process moved faster, and people wound up with more money than they would get going to court anyway. I would imagine that's that kind of thing. He's going to argue that kind of thing here as well.
Well, I mean, it surprises me that how can Mr. Feinberg predict what a jury is going to give somebody? How can he opine as to what someone may or may not get from court?
But I think what he'll say is what he said after 9/11 is that these cases drag on for years, and then attorneys' fees, take a lot of the money, so people wind up with less money than they expect anyway from court.
Well, I mean, we are not charging much of a fee to submit claims to Mr. Feinberg. We're trying to help people at a greatly reduced rate. The issue that people have to remember is this: is that the old saying is always true about those who try to represent themselves. This is a legal process. It's a very complicated environmental toxic tort case. People with substantial commercial type claims need to consult their CPAs and their attorneys. The people that have simple lost wage claims, those are pretty easy to adjudicate.
Okay. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.